Thank you for attending today's session. I'm so happy. We have Sibelius today. I'm so excited about it. It's our first Sibelius course using Sibelius as an interactive teaching tool. And we're so happy to have Martin Thomas with us. So I'm excited about today's session. Thank you all for joining us wherever you're watching us from, either the Zoom link or if you're watching us on Soch. Let us know where you're watching from. It'd be great to hear from you. It looks like we have someone from Pakistan. Welcome. Glad to have you on today's session. The UK, awesome. Colombia, LA, awesome. Thank you guys for attending. We're so excited to have you. As you know, if you're watching us from Zoom, the session does have you muted right now, but you can enter questions in the question field. So go ahead and enter those at any time. If you do have an issue, raise your hand. I can come to you separately and take care of that for you as well. You can go ahead and, to let you know, we are recording the sessions. These will be posted back to avid.com. So if you missed something, you can go back and check it out as well. So give us a shout out or the questions on those social feeds. As I mentioned, we're so happy to have Martin Thomas with us today. He's one of our Avid Masters instructors for Sibelius, and he's going to show us some tricks to using this as a teaching tool. So Martin, I am so happy to have you on, and I know you have a ton of stuff to cover. So I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to you.
Superb. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. As Dawn said, my name is Martin Thompson. I am master instructor for Sibelius, but I've been a teacher for 30 years or more. And this is where I'm coming to Sibelius from for today's session. We're looking at some tips and tricks for using Sibelius that you may not be aware of or you may not have thought of. Everyone knows about Sibelius. You can use it as a way of providing high quality, professional quality printed music. What today's session is about is you're standing in front of a class of pupils or students with a whiteboard with Sibelius on it, and you're looking for ideas of how you can use that in an interactive way to teach different musical concepts to different students of different levels, different ages. And hopefully, as I said, we'll give you some ideas for today, some things you may not have thought about how you can use Sibelius in different ways. That's what today's about. I have various files I want to show you and take you through. Hopefully we'll get through them all in the 30 minutes that we have, but we'll see how we go. So let me start off by showing you this file here. This is called Early One Morning. It's a fairly straightforward one. We can start nice and straightforward. And if I play it to you, you will expect to see, obviously, you'll see the file going by, but what you may not be aware of is obviously there's more happening there than just the vocal part, okay? This is all to do with one of the features which I think is a very underused feature in Sibelius. I certainly use it every day of my life. And if you go to the layout tab up here, it's focus on staves, okay? What focus on staves is designed for is if you're working on a full orchestral score, let's say, and you want to specifically focus on the string parts. You can't fit the entire part, the entire score onto your screen unless you've got one of these up and down vertical monitors. So you focus purely on the part of the score on which you're working. Well, that's fine, but if you're going to think about it slightly differently, think slightly sideways, you could do what I've done here, which is focus purely on the voice part, okay? So everything else is still there and you can still hear it, but you're only seeing the voice part. If I undo focus on staves, you can see the full score, there it's there, okay? And if I go into panorama mode, you can see everything along there. But if I focus on the vocal part, focus on staves, shortcut is Control-Alt-I on a, sorry, Control-Alt-F, I beg your pardon, on a PC. Okay, that will look like so. You know you're not looking at a voice part because the voice text here is at the start of each line. That's a bit of a clue, okay? Now, if I only selected that part, I would only hear that part. So if you're perhaps teaching a choir or a class to sing that song, that's one way of teaching them how it goes. Okay, just select first bar there, hit play. And it will only hear that part. If, however, nothing is selected, when you start from here, your other option, of course, is to go into the mixer, which is M for the mixer, and you can mute or solo the voice part from there as well. So if you decide you just want the accompaniment, you can mute the solo part. So you get from here. So that's the sort of thing that today is going to be about, just ways of using the tools that Sibelius supplies in a slightly sideways way, slightly different manner than you maybe are expecting. Okay. Another example of this is this one here, which is a lead sheet called Strike Up the Band. And it's the same idea, it's the exact same principle, but this time it's a full big band that we're going to be working with rather than just a small ensemble. Etc. You get the idea. Okay. One other thing that's maybe worth pointing out at the moment is if you're working on a whiteboard, you may not need to see all of this ribbon at the top, in which case this green arrow here will minimize that. That's something that a lot of people just aren't aware of. Okay, that there gives you a bit more screen space. Control and F1, which will be Command or F1 on a Mac. And also, if you decide you want even more than that, Control U will make it full screen mode altogether. If you still need to access the tabs, you can still click on them to get to them, but they're not going to be there by default. So if you want the most screen space, the most real estate, that's probably the best way to do it. The other thing that's worth pointing out as well, if you're working on a whiteboard, is the keypad here. We all know, hopefully, if we are experienced Sibelius users, that the escape key on your computer keyboard is your friend. That will stop whichever is happening, whether it's playback or note input or whatever. On the keypad here, this arrow here is the escape key. So if I play from there, let's say, of course the keypad disappears. But if I'm inputting notes or whatever, that will deselect anything that's selected. Okay, so keep that in mind. You don't have to keep on running back and forward to your computer keyboard. Okay. So those two files there are fairly straightforward. You can hide various parts of this or various staves in the score. Okay. Now, let's have a look at the next one. This one here, the scenario here is you are teaching, I've called it cadence recognition. Okay, so you're teaching cadences, for example. You're teaching about musical theory, perhaps composition, like so as well. Okay. You can see from the start, if I hit play, it's a fairly straightforward. It's a Baccarat played on a harpsichord. Okay. If I, however, select this note here and hit play, I've got the full cadence is being played for me. Okay. And I can do that for any of the cadences. So you're talking about cadence recognition. What is a plagal cadence? What is an interrupted cadence? What is a perfect cadence? Which of those would work best with each of these different points? Okay. How have I done that? Well, if I were to go to the View tab and turn on Hidden Objects up here, you can see all the rest of the score is still there. You just can't see it. It's been hidden from view. Okay. So if I select that note there and hit play, I'm actually playing the full score. even though you're only seeing part of it. Okay, how did we do that? Well, if I triple click the entire left hand here, go to the Home tab, there's your hide or show options. So if I go to show and score, it becomes visible again. Okay, and I would do that for, in fact, let's just do it from there to the end on the left hand and hide. For the right hand, what I've had to do, in fact, I can just do it for the first two bars here. You can see when I select these notes, some of them are blue, some of them are green. The green ones are in voice 2, so I'd have to then filter out voice 2. So I'd do that from the Home tab, filters, voice 2, only voice 2 selected, and then I hide those. Okay, let me just quickly hide those as well. There you go. And then turn off hidden objects. And that's what you're looking at. Okay. Other option that you might want to consider for this is triple click the entire left hand. So the entire left hand selected, filter voice 2 again, and show voice 2. So show and score. Now it can be a dictation exercise. Okay, so from here, let's say, there's a melody, there's a bass line, what happens in between? Your job as a student is to write that down. Okay, so hiding and showing is a good way to have information in the score which isn't actually shown to the students, but you could use it in an educational way. Okay. Next one here I'm going to look at is called Let's Play Drums. Now, the situation here, the scenario here is, I don't know what it's like where you are, but in Scotland, and certainly in the UK, very often classroom music teachers have to teach to 11, 12-year-olds all sorts of different instruments, including bass guitar, electric guitar, drums, etc. But a lot of these teachers don't play drums themselves. Now, this looks like a very straightforward one, because what you would do is just hit play, and it would play what the students are seeing or what they see on the screen. And the idea then is the teacher would then ask them to go ahead and carry on and repeat what they're hearing. If I hit play for this one, okay, so students are then being asked to then just maybe do the air drums thing, or maybe tap the desk in time with it, so they're keeping in time with the music. But do you notice this is now playing the second time through? There's no repeat sign here. I'm just going to go back and play the third time through. Still no repeat sign. Once they've got that and they're comfortable with all this, they would then go into the second line, hit play, add the bass drum, so their foot is now doing the bass drum part, while their right hand still carries on doing the air drum for the cymbal. But then at the end of this line, it goes back and plays that line again. And the same for the next line, and the same for the next line. So they're building up, the students are building up this rhythm. Okay. How do we do this? Well, on the play tab in the interpretations group, there's a thing called repeats. Now, by default, Sibelius will play automatic repeats playback. Okay, so if you have a repeat sign here, it'll play this back. However, I've used this feature here to tell it to play bars 1 to 4 3 times, and then go into bar 5 to 8 and play that 3 times. Then the next line, then the next line. I could have, if I wanted, copied and pasted that out. So play bars 1 to 4 as many times as you like before you move on to these other bars, these other lines. It means that you can have multiple repeats of a section of music going on for as long as you like without having to have it written and notated in the score. It's quite a handy trick to be aware of. And this is a good example of how you can use that. So that line there would now be played 10 times or whatever that was in there before it moves on to the next one. And you can do that for any of these lines here. It's another way of thinking slightly sideways about how you can use Sibelius. That's what today's all about. Okay, the next one I'm going to look at is called Drag 'em. And this is actually one of the worksheets that comes with Sibelius, and it's a game. Simple as that, okay? You've got 5 minutes at the end of the lesson, and let's have a little musical game just to get the kids interested, okay? There's a full score there that you can see. Actually, I'm just going to come out of full screen mode just now. There we go. Oops, excuse me, that's what we're looking for there. Okay, so the way this one works, if I hit play for this one, you see the green playback line going across, but nothing happens. Okay, and the idea of the game, first of all, is all these symbols at the bottom have to be placed into the appropriate box up here. Okay, so that one says natural. I don't know if you can see that there. So that natural sign will be put into there. Okay, the fermata box here should have the fermata in there, like so. The treble clef should go into the treble clef box, etc. So the pupil is standing at the whiteboard, making sure that all these symbols go to the correct part of the screen. Okay, it doesn't tell you if you're right or wrong. That's your job as a teacher, but it gives you the option then to say, okay, the 40 mark, let's put that, if I as a student put that up there, are you sure that's a 40 mark, John? And John would look at that and go, no, 40 doesn't begin with a P, does it? So, okay, so I'll put that down there and put the 40 up there. That's more like it. Thank you very much. Okay, so they're dragging things around the screen. How is this one done? Fairly straightforwardly, if I hit the letter I to show you the instruments in the score, these are the instruments that are in that score, and the only one that's there is no lines hidden. Okay, if I go to the All Instruments group over here, and go to Others at the bottom, one of the options in there is attached to a musical stave. So you have to have a musical stave. Even if you don't put any notes on it, you have to have a stave there. And if you select one of these, you'll see, I don't know if you can see that grey dotted line. That's what we call the attachment line. And that shows you that that's attached to this musical stave, which is, well, it's hidden, you can't see it, okay? But it means that you can have any of these and you can move them around to wherever they need to be, okay? These, incidentally, are all symbols taken from the symbols gallery, which is in notations, and there's your symbols gallery there. There's lots of musical symbols you can add in there. You just basically add those and then move them to wherever you need them to be. Okay, musical games within Sibelius. And this is part of the worksheet creator, which we'll look at in our next Sibelius session, which is on the 15th of September. I'm sure Dawn will tell you about that later on. Okay, the next one I'm going to show you is a thing called Exploding Bach. Dreadful name, and I apologise profusely for the name. But the idea is, this is a very straightforward file. There we have our Bach chorale. Okay, but what we want to do is to turn that Bach chorale into a string quartet. So I've got my string quartet down here. All I need to do, triple click to select the entire piano part, copy it, Control Command C, select the first beat of my string parts, then go to the Note Input tab, and over here you have the Arrange group, and under Arrange, you can choose the Arrange style, and I'm going to choose from there Explode, hence the name Exploding Bach. And what that will do is basically spit those 4 lines out onto my string quartet. The beauty then is I can then select my mixer, go to my piano, and either turn it down or perhaps even change the sound to a harpsichord. Let's see. So that can be used as a compositional tool. It can be used as a way of explaining how these lines can interact with each other. But also, if I just quickly select and copy again, I can go to the arrange feature here and show you something about the arrange feature, okay? Explode and reduce, these are simple if you want to make a keyboard reduction. Reduction is the opposite of what I've just done. So if you take your string quartet to make a rehearsal piano part for it, you can use that as well. But if I scroll down here, it's going to tell you over here what each of these would do. Okay, so there's an all-purpose orchestration for wind, concert, military, marching band, etc. Okay, if I pick another one, choir, sopranos doubling the altos, other voices will sing any other material. But further down, if I want to find out how Count Basie wrote his shout choruses, well, there's information about the orchestrations that he used and the voicings that he used. So if you're looking from as a composition teacher or as a theory teacher, what would make, or an arranging teacher, what would make a good sounding shout chorus? There are some ideas that you could use as a teaching tool, just to think, I didn't know that's how we did it. You got those for different types of Basie arrangements. You've also got it for Sammy Nestico, for Billy Strayhorn, and for Thad Jones as well. Okay, so if you're looking to show students how these composers and these fantastic arrangers arranged their music to make it sound in that style, well, there's how they did it. Okay, and it's certainly worth keeping that in mind as an option for you. You've also got all the other options down here of various different ensembles, various different orchestras, etc. as well, rock groups, solo with accompaniments or whatever, various different types, okay? But the arrange feature is quite an underused wee feature, and as a teaching tool, which is what today's about, you could certainly use just that wee section of it there, just to explain how these people went about arranging their music in such a really cool way. Okay. So hopefully we're giving you some ideas as we get through today. I'm becoming aware of the time, 10 minutes left or so. That's okay, we can do this. The next one is called Add Simple Harmony. Oops, there it's there. Okay. What this one's talking about is using a plugin to do a specific task for you, okay? A lot of the tabs in Sibelius have a plugin area over here as well. If I go to the play tab, there's a plugins area there. If I go to note input tab, there's a plugin over there, okay? The scenario is, my student has created a fairly simple flute tune. Lovely. I've no idea what to do with it now though. Okay, they're now lost. They've got, right, I've made my 8-bar tune. What do I do now? Well, various options for you. You can have a look on the note input tab. Over here, you've got a transformations group, where if you want to start thinking about retrograde and inverting, you can have a look at these. Retrograde will turn a tune basically back on itself. So it'll turn it from A to Z, from Z to A. It'll turn it like that, horizontally. But you can also tell it to retrograde the pitches and the rhythms or both, okay? So for example, if I just take this first line, first bar here, and retrograde the pitches, no, I'll do the rhythms. The rhythms are exactly the same. Doesn't make any difference. Let's do 2 bars. Okay, and retrograde those rhythms. It's the same rhythms, Thompson. Duh. Let's do the pitches in. There we go. Okay, so it's changing the pitches and turned them back on themselves, okay? You can also retrograde both from there as well if you want. Control Z back. Okay, you can also invert. And inverting is the opposite of turn. Instead of turning it left to right, it's turning it up and down. Okay, so it's going to invert it around about a specific note, and you can decide what that note is. And you can do it diatonically or chromatically as well. Okay, so we're in the key of B flat major. Let's just therefore turn it around about B flat and see what that looks like. Take up a couple of octaves. Okay, and that's just turning it around B flat. Okay, what about if we turn it around B flat in the correct octave, which should have been 6. There we go. Okay, but you can also, let's turn it around about F sharp in octave 5. Let's see what happens. Okay, now I said diatonically there, so that was a mistake because F sharp isn't diatonic. Let's make that chromatic. There we go. And we've suddenly got a completely different melody. Okay, and it's different ways of taking your tune and inverting it and doing different things with it. Okay, but another option which you may not be aware of, and I've called this Add Simple Harmony because on the Note Input tab under Plugins, there's one called Add Simple Harmony, and it's there. And what that will do is, as the name suggests, add simple harmony in various different styles. I'm going to use quaver, 8th note arpeggios, and leave everything else as it is. Go. And it creates a harmony. It may not be the harmony that it ends up as, but it's a good starting point, and it alleviates the white page syndrome where you're looking at something going, I have no idea what to do next. Okay, you've always got these different ideas to have a play with. Okay, other options you could do with this, for example, I may decide to add a bass guitar to it. Let's say, let's go for jazz instruments, rhythm section, bass guitar notation, and it's there. Select a minimum and just start typing the note names that the chord suggests up here. So let's go for a G, and a C, and an F, flat, B flat, take it down an octave, B flat, G, C, F, B flat, G, C, F, and B flat to finish. Okay, we've suddenly starting to have a full band arrangement. You can then add passing notes, etc. to the bass line if you want to do that as well. And your last option that you can have on here, again under Note Input, Plugins, is to add a drum pattern. So if you're not a drummer, you can add a drum pattern in various different styles again to play with. I'm going to go for straight 8ths. There you go. I don't need a metronome mark, don't need an intro, I will have a break, and I don't need the outro. Go. And it adds a drum line for me as well. Okay, so there's various different things you can do with that there. And we started off about, what, 4 minutes ago with a simple tune, and we now have quite a lot of, we've got a proper band arrangement there. Okay, I've got 2 files left to show you, and they're both related, so very quickly go through these. This next one here is called Which Cadence? Very straightforward one here initially, because there's nothing hidden here. This is just a straightforward single line. There's no hidden notes or anything here, okay? But you'll notice the cadence points, again, I've highlighted with these coloured highlights, okay? Because I'm going to open the Ideas Hub, which you may not be aware of, but it's one of the floating panels in the View Panels group, Ideas there. And I'm going to go to the score. I've created various different cadences. If you look at each of these, they all have the same top line as the pink cadence here. So the interrupted one, if I click and hold, as you hear that, the perfect one, the plagal one. So the idea here is the student would decide which one they want to try and use. Okay, I'll put it back into panorama like that. Okay, so they can now decide, do they like that cadence as uninterrupted, or would they prefer it as a plagal? Let's try the plagal one. See how that sounds. Or they might want to try the perfect one. Is that the one I just used? I can't remember. Whoops. Beg your pardon. Yeah. Let's try the plagal one. And then it's up to them to decide which one they want to use. You could then go through the entire score, adding a different cadence point at each of the different cadences here, different color codings all match up. And you know that those cadences will match the cadences in the score. And that could be your basis for a composition. Very straightforward. Other thing to be aware of in the Ideas Hub, lots of things. It's a very powerful feature within Sibelius is the Ideas panel, so I would have a look at it. If I go to the preferences for it, there it's there. When you paste the ideas, you can tell it to transpose to match the current key signature. So if I were to transpose this piece of music into a different key, I'm confident that these cadences would then transpose themselves into that key when I put them into music. Okay, so I only have to do this once, but if I decide, you know, let's do this piece in B flat major, these cadences would then work as part of that. Okay. Again, it's not how the Ideas Hub is designed to be used. The idea behind the Ideas Hub, I suppose, is you have 1,700 musical snippets in various different styles, genres that you can use as the basis for a composition. Again, it's just to avoid the whole white screen concept of, I don't know what to do next, the writer's block idea. You have all these different styles, all these different things that you can add as a basis for your composition. And the fact that they all transpose with each other means that it doesn't matter what key they're in there, when you put them into a piece of music, they should all work fairly well with each other as well. But with a little sideways thinking, you can use it in a different way. And the last file is the same idea in as much as it uses the Ideas Hub, but other things to show you about it first. There it's there. If I hit play, you're going to be going, so he's done the same as the first one. He's just focused on staves. Yes, I have, but I've done a wee bit more than that as well. Let's carry on playing. G5 when I get to the second time. Strings come in the second time through. If I then play and fast forward again a wee bit, strings drop out. Okay, so the thinking here is you've had a lesson with the students on the 12-bar blues, and they're all sitting at their Casio keyboards or MIDI keyboards, and you want them to play along with a backing track. So instead of having the same thing happening over and over and over and over again, you can add some different things into each playthrough. And I've done that. If I focus on staves again, so you can see the full score, there's the string part there. If I select the string part and go to the Home tab and the Inspector, down here, there's an area called Play on Pass, and I've set that to only play on the second pass. So the second time through it, the strings will play. They won't play in the first or the third time, just the second time. And the same for the brass section there, that's only going to play in the third time through as well. It's a way of just making a score that could be very repetitive, a bit more interesting. But what you can also do with this, let me go back to the way it was, focus on the Fender Rhodes part, is open up the Ideas panel again, go to the score one, and you have various ideas for a melody. So if someone is sitting at their keyboard going, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to start this, well, there's some ideas for you. Let's copy that, put it in. If I play it from here, okay, from the ideas panel, click and hold. You can hear it's quite slow and it's straight. But if I play it from here, it then takes on the properties of this music, okay, of this score. And one of those properties on the play tab under performance is I've set it to be a heavy swing. So it's a swing piece. And all of these will take on that swing feel as part of the score, okay? I can then copy that around as a part of a composition. I might decide, okay, let's take the same two bars, put them in here this time, but just use another feature in here, which is called, if I go to the Note Input tab, this one here, Re-input Pitches. And what that will do is let me change the pitch of that note without adjusting the length of it. So the next one is going to be an flat and then a C. Without changing the length of the notes, it just changes the pitches of it. So now I've got the start of my 12-bar blues. I can do the same for any of these. I can incorporate those. There's a straight one there. This last thing, I can put that in there, for example. And I can use this as a does this work idea. Didn't like the sound of that one, so you take that one out and put a different one in, okay? So again, when you're standing in front of the students, there's lots of different ways in which you can use Sibelius. And that's what today's session has been about. And I hope it's given you some ideas of different things you can do with it, okay? It was certainly aimed today at people who are comfortable using Sibelius, but are looking for different ideas, different things to do. And hopefully we've covered most of those, okay? So I'm going to wrap it up there because of the time. So I'm going to hand back to Dawn. Dawn, thank you very much.
Thank you. That was awesome. I can't wait to try 1,700 different instruments in creating a cool sound. So it was really neat. So yeah, if you have questions, go ahead and get those in at this time, and we'll try to get those asked now. Or if not, if we don't have time to get to some of them, you can still email them to me at liveonlinelearning@avid.com. Also posted up there is our next sessions for tomorrow and Thursday. And Martin, we're going to have you back on September 15th. So I'm excited to see that one. I thought today's session was great. Everybody was positive on the social feed. So that was awesome. I did have one quick question come in. When you're setting up the game, I guess, are you able to choose notes for younger students so you can kind of pick which notes would go in there?
Yep, you can put anything you like in there. If I open up the symbols, all of the notes that you saw were all part of the symbols gallery. And if you go to the all up here, you see all the different categories, if you like, of symbols that you have. And everything you need should be in there. So if you're looking for different types of notes or whatever, they should all be there as symbols. Okay, so they don't play back, but they are all there for you. It's a case of finding them.
Awesome. Yeah, I could see how being a music instructor, you could really embrace how a student can use the different instruments and everything. So that was really amazing to see that.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much. Thank you so much for presenting. Go ahead and check out avid.com online learning webinars for upcoming sessions, as we said, and also the video will be posted back there as well. And drop us a line for any sessions you want to see in the future at liveonlinelearning@avid.com. So Martin, thank you once again, and I'll let you get back on with your evening there in Scotland. So thank you so much.
Very much.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Have a great day.
And you. Bye-bye.